Hey everybody, my name is Cheri. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ and I'm in recovery for chemical dependency. Hey. You know, I always introduce myself here as being in recovery for chemical dependency, and I am. That is my main issue. But I want you guys to also know that I'm also in recovery for anger. It was actually 4 years ago this month, so May of 2015, when I committed a crime out of anger. A crime in which I was seeking revenge. A crime in which I was reacting so strongly out of anger that I was reacting in violence. And I remember the scene that night. So when the police came, there was about a dozen of them, and I was hiding in the woods. And when they found me, there was about 5 of them that found me, and they were surrounding me. They were like, stand up and put your hands behind your head, and they were surrounding me with their guns pulled and pointed at me. Now you would think, after all that happening, that a person would recognize that they had a problem with anger. Yeah, well, that didn't happen, because the police officer that arrested me and actually put the handcuffs on me, I was like, oh, listen, I'm not the victim. I remember very clearly saying that. I remember being interrogated by another police officer at the police station later on, and I was like, but I'm not the victim. Like, listen, like, this is what he did. This is why I did what I did. This is why it was okay for me to do that. It was justified. I actually came to Celebrate Recovery 6 months after that, still thinking I was the victim in that situation. And it wasn't until I actually worked the steps here at CR that I was finally able to admit that I had an anger problem. And a lot has changed in those 4 years. Because, I mean, admitting the problem, I mean, that's the first step, right? To change. First step, coming out of denial. I've been in denial my whole life. I'm going to tell y'all, that was not an isolated incident. I mean, that was the worst incident, but there have been others. You know, that wasn't the first time that I had reacted in an explosive way in anger. That was not the first time that I was seeking revenge against someone. That was not the first time that I had reacted with violence when I was angry. It was a pattern. And I was able to see that through working the steps. And I'm going to say, like, a lot has changed in 4 years. I'm not that same person. I'm not going to stand up here and say that I am perfect by any means, because I am not. But I have experienced great victory in this area. And with there being an extra Friday in the year and an opportunity to do a special teaching, the Lord really put it on my heart to share with you guys what He has taught me in recovery from anger. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And one of the things I want to say first is, you know, when we react out of anger, that it does a lot of damage, I mean, no doubt. And once the damage has been done, I can't go back and undo it. Like, I can't go back and take back and undo what I did that night. Once words are spoken and come out of my mouth in anger, I cannot take those words back and unsay what I said. But what if I could conduct myself in a way where I could avoid causing that kind of damage going forward? That's the goal. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. The goal of anger management, and I'm going to say this again in a minute, I'm going to say it a few times, is to keep our relationships healthy. According to Jesus, the mark of a Christian is love. Jesus said, by this everyone will know you are my disciples if you love one another. right? That's the two greatest commandments. Love God, love others. I'm going to read to you from 1 Corinthians 13. This is verse 4 and 5. Now, this is not a sermon on love, but this is very relevant to what we're talking about tonight. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. So, as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus, my response to this should really be, am I these characteristics? Am I patient? Am I kind? Am I jealous? Am I boastful? Am I proud? Am I rude? Am I self-seeking? Am I easily angered? Am I? Another translation says easily provoked. Am I easily provoked? I mean, that's just another way of saying, do I lose my temper easily? Another translation uses the word irritable. Irritable. Same thing. Am I irritable? Am I? Do I keep a record of wrongs done to me? First thing I want to say about anger, anger in and of itself is not really a bad thing. Anger is a God-given human emotion. We all get angry. Anger can actually be a good thing because it can teach you something about yourself. Did you know that? It can teach you what's important to you, what your sensitivities are, where your boundaries lie. But you have to pay attention to it. You have to listen to it. You have to take the time to learn from it. If you're able to catch the internal clues that anger is on its way, you can actually shift to a mindset of curiosity, of self-investigation as to what is my anger? What is this trying to tell me? And then you can do something constructive and positive about it rather than causing damage. Do you know you can do that? You can. We're going to talk about it tonight. Again, I'm going to say the goal of anger management is maintaining healthy relationships. It's being loving. So we're going to talk about how do we respond versus react. There's a difference between those two words. So respond versus react. So when I'm talking about react, that was what I was telling you about at the beginning. That was a unhealthy reaction. So that was me. That was me when I got angry. It was explosive anger. I mean, that's what we usually think about when we think about an angry person, right? You know, I mean, they're up in your face, they're yelling, they may, be violent. If it was me, I'll be throwing things, slamming doors. I may throw something at you. It's that kind of like in your face anger. There's also other types of anger as well. The other types of unhealthy reactions to anger. Another one is passive aggression. Passive aggression. So that is trying to, not really getting visibly angry, but it's expressed in a passive way that's still designed to cause just as much hurt to the other person. But it speaks in get even behavior instead of words. It can be anything like backhanded compliments, ignoring someone, the silent treatment, sabotaging someone. You left me out of this, so I'm going to leave you out of this. It's kind of like I'm going to pay you back, like I'm going to get my revenge. You might not know that that's what I'm doing, but that's what I'm doing. Sarcasm is another one. Did you think of that? I mean, a lot of times, we're saying, oh, I'm just being funny. It's just a joke. But it's really just being rude. What about stuffing it down? A lot of people think that, well, I'm just going to stuff it down. I'm just going to stuff it inside. And then I'm end up stewing over it, right? It will eventually come up. And when it does, it may not even come up at the person that you were angry at in the first place. It's going to come up at somebody else that just happens to be right there at the time, an innocent person. Irritability, which we just talked about in that scripture verse. Irritability, that was a big one for me. When the explosive anger was removed, there was still that irritability that had to be dealt with. There was a lot of that. I found myself getting irritated with people all the time, and I'm like, that just come across it. My reaction to that was just being rude to them, just being rude, and the way that I spoke. So those are all unhealthy reactions to anger. We're going to talk about how do we, instead of react, respond. And when I say respond, that's going to be in the healthy way. We'll talk about that in just a minute. I'm going to read you Ephesians 4:26 through 27. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. So it does not tell us not to be angry. Remember, anger is a God-given human emotion. It tells us do not sin in your anger. So to me, that's telling me respond in a healthy way. Look at James 1:9. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. How can you be slow to become angry? Well, it tells you right there, right before it says that in the scripture verse. How do I be slow to become angry? Be quick to listen and slow to speak. So when I get angry, I slow down. I don't speak right away. That's the big thing. I call it practicing the pause. If you remember anything from tonight, remember that. Practice the pause. Saves me so many times. Practice the pause. So we're going to talk about how do I practice the pause and what does that mean? And then what do I do in the pause? So in order to practice the pause, the first thing that you have to be able to do is you have to identify your anger impulses. And what I mean by that is that's your body's reaction to anger. So your body is going to tell you that you're angry first. You're going to feel it in your body. And so I think we've got a slide with some. I'm not going to read them all, but I'm going to tell you what it looked like for me or what it felt like for me. Or it still feels like for me when I get angry. It's like an immediate heat wave in my body. It's starts in my head. It's like heat all the way through. Immediately, it's okay? And then my heart starts pounding. It's like that's the adrenaline. My heart starts pounding. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, the old me, when my body was going through that reaction, would immediately, like a light switch, boom, it would just go from the anger impulse right into the reaction. No pause whatsoever. Immediately, right into the reaction. Almost so much that I didn't even catch that impulse to begin with. I didn't even realize what was going on in my body. Part of practicing the pause is recognizing what is happening in your body. You recognize these things and you're like, okay, that's my anger impulse. I have to pause right here. Now, my pause was very, very, very short to begin with when I first started practicing the pause. It was extremely short. But it only needs to be a nanosecond. And let me tell you why. Because in that nanosecond, if you'll give it a nanosecond, the Holy Spirit will speak to you and say, you have a choice. He does that to me every time. You have a choice. And then you have a choice right now. Now, do I always make the right choice? Still, sometimes I don't make the right choice. But I'll tell you, the more times that I do make the right choice and respond in the right way, the easier and the easier and the easier it becomes. And then the longer and longer and longer my pauses become. I want to talk about that in a minute too. So if you can catch these impulses, you can give yourself a chance to respond rather than just react. So let's talk about some anger management techniques. This is what we do in the pause. So the first one is going to be take a timeout, cool down. That seems real simple. And nothing that I'm going to say here tonight is really profound. These are very simple things to do. And they work. They really work. I mean, I remember looking at them the first time, I'm like, that's not going to work. But they do. Okay, so take a timeout and cool down. So what I need to do here, or what I learned to do, I'm going to ask you this question. I learned how to calm myself down. Did you know you could calm yourself down? I don't know, some of y'all might not know that. I didn't know that. I did not know I could calm myself down. I mean, like at first sometimes I would call someone, I would call my sponsor. You know, I mean, you might need someone to help you, talk it out and help you calm down. If you talk it out with someone else, that's fine. But you know what? Like, you should really learn how to calm yourself down. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to do that. So the taking a time out, and this is talking about what I'm doing here is I have to physically step away from the situation, from the trigger. So I'm going to physically step away. Say I'm in an argument with someone and it gets angry. I'm going to have to remove myself from that situation. I'm going to be like, I have to, cut, because then that forces me to stop the reaction, because my body is reacting and I want to go straight into an unhealthy reaction. So I need to break right then. So I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to walk outside. I like to walk outside when this happens. You can do whatever works for you. Walk outside, take a walk, do something physical. What we're going to talk about here, and I'm going to give you some other techniques for this too. The first few techniques I'm going to give you is having to deal with the physical, with your body's reaction, calming yourself down physically, because there's something physical going on in your body right now. And until you calm that down, you can't deal with the mental part of your anger. So we're going to talk about calming your body down first. Second technique I'm going to tell you about is deep breathing. Like I said, there's nothing profound about this. Did you know that when you're angry, your breathing changes? You got adrenaline pumping through your body. Your breathing changes. If you can change your breathing back to normal, you can calm your body down physically. There is a good technique on how to do this. I mean, you can do just deep breathing. You just breathe in, breathe out. But there's something that is proven. It's called square breathing, box breathing, square breathing. It's because it's 4 counts of 4 is why it's called that. I'm going to tell you how to do that. And you can practice this while you are calm, so that when you do get angry, you do it. It's pretty simple. You breathe in slowly for 4 seconds. You hold your breath for 4 seconds. Then you breathe out slowly for 4 seconds. I'm talking about when you breathe in, feel your lungs. Hold 4 seconds. Breathe out. Completely let the air out of your lungs. 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. So it's 16 seconds long. And you do that again and again until you're calm, at least for a minute. It works, you guys. I'm not kidding. It works. Okay, so the goal is, again, we're calming our body down. The next technique I'm going to tell you about is called progressive muscle relaxation. This thing is pretty simple, too. This is a way to calm your body down. I want to give you another tip, too. This works for, if you're having trouble sleeping at night. This can help. Progressive muscle relaxation. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I've never heard of it before until I was in anger management class, the core order, by the way. And I was like, what is that? I don't know anything about that. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you a way to get help with doing this if you want to try it out, because it really does work. So basically what you do is you start at your tippy toes, at your feet, and you're going to tense each muscle group, and then relax it, each muscle group. And then you're going to move up your body. So I start with my feet, and then my legs, and all the way up my body until my whole entire body, all the way up to my head, until my whole entire body is now relaxed. This works, you guys, and it's best if you do it guided. All you have to do is go to the app store on your phone and search Progressive Muscle Relaxation. You can find a ton of apps for this. And so it'll be a nice little calm lady's voice talking to you, guiding you through exactly what to do. And there'll be some light music playing in the background. It's very relaxing. this will relax your body. This will calm down your body's anger impulse. It works. So the third technique is mindfulness. Now, what does that mean? So mindfulness is really, now we're going to get into the mental part of calming down. Now that my body's calmed down, now I can check out what is going on here. Let me evaluate this. Let me evaluate me. Remember, that's what we do, right? In CR, we evaluate me. Like, what's going on inside of me here? Okay. Mindfulness is it's just awareness. It's just being in the present moment and evaluating it and learning from it. So here's what I do. And I want to tell you this too. Like, anger, a lot of the times, is a secondary emotion, meaning that it is covering up or protecting me from some other emotion that is the primary emotion, that is a vulnerable feeling, more vulnerable than anger. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I got to ask myself, now anger sometimes can be the primary emotion, but a lot of times it's going to be the secondary. So I need to see, like, what else am I feeling here? I need to ask myself, that's what I need to evaluate. Remember, I'm doing all of this in the pause. This is in the pause. This is before I respond. I'm evaluating. So I'm like, am I hurt? Am I embarrassed? Am I scared? Am I afraid? Am I anxious? Do I feel disrespected, frustrated, disappointed? You know, this is important to know the why. Why am I angry? This is the why. Here, this emotion behind it. And so we're evaluating ourselves. Now, that's going to be the root cause of your anger, the why. When you think about it, it's really important to know that, because now I can figure out what am I going to do about it. Like, what is the right way to respond? Like before, like, if I'm just reacting, I don't even know really why. I haven't evaluated anything. I'm just reacting, you know. But now I have a chance to really look at this. Like, what is this telling me? Okay, so still in the pause, we're going to do now what's called a reality check. I love this one. So think about this for a minute, like talking about the anger impulse, you know, my body, like I'm having a hot flash, I'm feeling like the adrenaline flowing. So in that reaction in my body, that is the same reaction no matter what it is that makes me angry. Really, like, think about that for a minute. And really look at yourself when you start evaluating this in yourself. Anything that makes me angry, whether it's something real little or if it's something real, real big, my body, the anger impulse in my body is exactly the same. Should my reaction be exactly the same? Mm-mm. But my body is telling me to react in the same way every time. Woo! It's telling me. So that's why we got to practice the pause. And so this is the reality check. Here I'm going to ask myself a series of questions. And I want to tell you the questions I ask. Is this really worth getting angry about? Is it really worth getting angry about? Well, you know what? 99% of the time it's not. For me, it's not. I'm like, okay, that's really not worth getting angry about. Okay, there you go. How important is it in the grand scheme of things? Is it worth ruining the rest of my day? Is it? Is my response appropriate to the situation? Is there anything I can do about it? Situation. Do I want to do anything about it? Is it worth my time to take action? So then, after I've answered these questions, then I can decide, do I want to pick this battle? You know, when we talk about picking battles, you got to pick your battles. Let me tell you guys, you don't want to pick every battle. So this is how we decide which battles that we want to pick, what is really important. And then I can decide, do I want to pick this battle? Do I want to let it go? If I decide to pick this battle, then comes another part of this managing our anger, and that is healthy confrontation. That is the healthy response. If I decide to respond at all. Because after I do that reality check, I might decide there's no response here. I'm going to let it go. Or I might decide there is a response, and if there is, it's going to be this one. Healthy confrontation. So all of that we just did was in the pause. Now, it takes a while to get to that point to where you can pause for that long, but let me tell you, the longer and longer I pause, the better and better my reaction is going to be. My response, is going to be. The better this part, the healthy confrontation is going to be. So let's talk about the things that we do in the healthy confrontation. Well, first of all, I'm just going to say confrontation is not about telling someone off, if that's what you're thinking it is. It's not about setting someone straight. Confrontation is looking at issues and solving problems. So before I go to anyone in confrontation, I'm going to give you two things that you need to do before you go in confrontation. These are the final things here. The first one, you need to inventory the situation. That's what we do, right? You need to inventory it. Fourth step it. Look at your part. I'm going to write it out, right? Something happens when I write it out and put it on paper. Remember, I can see much more clearly. Now I can see. Whew. Okay, there's my part right there. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do that first, and then I'm going to take all of that to God, every bit of it, in prayer, and cover it in prayer before I confront. Okay, so in confrontation, which should only be done once I am calm, I never confront while I'm still angry. It should only be once I'm calm. And then I'm going to make sure I check my motives also and make sure that I'm confronting in love, right, and not in anger. And confronting in love means that I am making the relationship my priority, not myself being right. Remember, love is not self-seeking. The relationship needs to be my priority. So we really need to decide that people matter more than being right. I'm going to pick my battles, and if I'm picking this battle, I'm going to decide to fight fair. What does fighting fair mean? Well, it means that my goal is to not only maintain the relationship, but it's to strengthen this relationship versus damaging the relationship and possibly losing the relationship. My goal is to maintain and strengthen it. And so how do I do that? Well, the first is I'll be respectful. Be respectful of the other person and their point of view. And that means that I maintain a reasonable tone of voice. No yelling. I'm going to seek compromise. I don't always have to be right. So I'm going to compromise here. Listen. That's so important. Listen to everything that the other person has to say. Don't ever assume. Listen. This is the important thing I want you guys to remember about listening. We need to listen to understand, not listen to reply. A lot of times when we're listening trying to figure out what's my reply going to be. That's the wrong way to listen. I need to listen to really understand what this other person is saying, really understand. And then a good thing to do is, even if you don't agree with what they're saying, is to repeat back what they said to them. That's going to help clear up any miscommunication there. So I'm going to repeat it back to them. I think what I hear you saying is this, and that gives them the opportunity to say, no, that's not what I'm saying. Work on that, clearing up any miscommunication. Then I want to focus on the present. Remember, love keeps no record of wrongs. I'm not going to bring up what happened in the past, what happened yesterday, what happened a year ago. I'm going to focus on this problem and the solution, finding a solution to this problem. Be assertive. Assertiveness is not the same thing as aggression, okay? Aggressive is not the same thing. When you're aggressive, you focus on winning. You care very little for the other person's feelings. When you're assertive, you focus on balance. So you're being honest about what I want. And I'm also being respectful about what the other person wants as well, and their feelings and their needs. Being assertive means I'm expressing my feelings calmly and directly without placing blame. lot of times. So what's one way you can do that? I'm going to give you an example of how you can do that. This is something called an iMessage. I learned this in anger management class too. And let me tell you, I am not that great at this yet, but I'm trying. Let me tell you, it's a very good way of being assertive in your communication. So an example, I'm going to give you first an opposite of an iMessage, which is a you message. So a you message would be this. You make me so angry, you are late and now dinner is ruined. Oh my goodness, if I heard that, I'd be like, whoa, what? You blaming me? You're attacking me here. Well, yeah, I use the word you. I'm like, you. I'm blaming you for something here. I'm blaming you also for my feelings here. For my feelings. Okay, so it could put the other person on the defensive real quick. And that's not what we want to do, right? Because we really want to seek a solution. Okay, so turn that around, and the I message for that same statement would be, I really went to a lot of trouble preparing dinner, and I'm just really disappointed that we didn't get to eat together. There's no you in that statement. You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm doing there? I'm telling them what my feelings are. I'm not placing any blame on them. And then I need to go a step further. I'm going to look for a solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I would really like it if you fill in what your solution is to the issue. Now, when you do that, you have to give the other person the freedom to say, no, I'm not okay with that solution. You know, be prepared for that. That's okay. But you've done your part. This is staying on our side of the street, remember? So that's the I message. And then, of course, know when to let it go. If you cannot come to an agreement, you can't agree to disagree and move on. We're not going to continue to carry on an argument, to no end. So know when you have to disengage. That's important. Okay, so I know that we're running short on time, but I'm just going to run through a few other techniques real quick. One of those is positive self-talk. This is versus negative self-talk. So negative self-talk would be so if somebody says something to me and it makes me angry, and I'm now feeding the fire in my mind with negative self-talk, which is what we usually do, right? I'm like, what is her problem? She always does that to me. Why is she messing with me? Why does she say that to me? Always. So positive self-talk, I had to really work on this with myself too, but it can be done. You can turn yourself around to positive self-talk. And what you really find as you start to have positive self-talk is that other people's behavior really has very, very little to do with you. It really does. It really has a lot to do with them. So now let's turn that around, and someone, comes off at me, and so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to take that personally because that probably doesn't have anything to do with me. They're probably just having a bad day. I wonder if they are having a bad day. I wonder what's going on. And then I can even flip that to having some compassion here of someone who's just mouthed off to me. I can say, hey, are you okay? What's going on? So that's positive self-talk. Avoid known triggers. You can avoid known triggers if you know what your triggers are. If you evaluate your anger enough, you're going to find out what triggers your anger. It can be a person. If you can avoid them, it may be a good idea to do it. Some people we can't. If it's a situation, you may can avoid it. For me, I don't know about y'all, but I get road rage. Anybody else get road rage? Okay. I get some road rage sometimes. So here's the thing I'll do. It's not profound. If it is genius. So I get off work and I work on the circle, and so it's right there, at 84 in the circle, and it's at 5 o'clock, rush hour traffic, and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna get angry every time. Every time on the way home I get angry, and I come on, angry, because I've let it get to me. So then now I purposely will avoid that trigger. Been doing that for a long time now. Take an extra route, a longer route home. But you know what? I don't get angry. So is that not smart or what? Okay. And then don't get sucked in. Be prepared. You can be prepared for. I'm going to tell you this too. This is something that my smart sponsor told me a long time ago, I used to have some issues with my dad, and so he would want to argue with me, like he wanted to pick a fight. So every time that I would go over to his house, he would want to intentionally pick a fight with me, try to get me arguing with him, try to get me angry. Intentionally, he would do this. And so, I try to get him to see my side, I'd be like that, then I get angry, and then I start angry, we start like back and forth, yelling at each other. And this would go on for hours. I ain't lying, y'all. We're so much alike. We'd be like back and forth for hours, and like getting nowhere, and like, it's just making me angrier and angrier. And so my sponsor told me, you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. I don't. Yeah, like, don't I have to win that argument? Okay, so then what I started doing was I was like, Dad, look, I tell you, like, if you want to start an argument, you're going to start arguing with me, I'm just going to have to leave. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that. And so he'd start an argument, and I'd be like, okay, I told you, you start an argument, I'm going to have to leave, so I'm going to have to leave now. And I was very polite about it. And I'd leave. I'd force myself to do it, and I hate that because he would immediately start an argument when I'd go to see him. And I'm like, now, like, I didn't even get to spend any time with him at all. He started an argument, and I told him I'd have to leave, and I did. Set a boundary, right? But that's healthy. So I was like, oh my gosh, it worked, because then, like, I only did it like a few times, and then he just stopped arguing because he knew I was going to leave. And he really didn't want me to leave. Hadn't had that problem yet. And praise the Lord. So you can be prepared, and you can also be prepared if you know, like, you're going to be in situations that are going to make you angry. You can prepare your response ahead of time. So in conclusion, you guys, there's one more thing I want to say about this, and that is, above all else, we must learn how to forgive. Forgiveness really is key here. Forgiveness is giving up my desire for revenge and surrendering my anger to God. Anger must be surrendered. Let's look at Romans 12:18-19. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. And verse 21 goes on to say, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Yes. But really, a good thing to do is just to make sure you pray for the people that hurt you. That does something in your heart, allows God to work in you. And another thing that I prayed for a long time, and I encourage you to do the same thing. If you're having issues with anger, is pray to really have God change you to become, you see other people the way He sees them, to be accepting of people just the way they are, exactly how they are. And we're not trying to change them. We just want to love them just how they are. And you know what? When I really came to learn how to do that, I found that I got angry a whole lot less often. And when I did get angry, it was a lot easier to let it go. Remember the one thing I told you to remember, if you don't remember anything else. Practice the pause, you guys. Practice the pause, and remember that you have an option here. Listen for the Holy Spirit to say that you have a choice. Because you do. You have a choice. And the right response, the right choice to make, is to respond in a Christ-like manner and be loving. Thank you guys for letting me share.